G'day and welcome to Does It Matters. Listen, there's been some frustrating aspects with this coronavirus. The panic selling of toilet paper has definitely been one, but some of the government stuff really does concern me somewhat. They really are trying to they serve too many masters, and they should be primarily serving the master of public safety. And public safety doesn't mean the economy. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. The economy could collapse all around us and would still be okay provided we had reasonable government intervention in those circumstances. But public safety in relation to knowing the facts, all the facts, not just the cherry-picked facts that suit the economic priorities that governments and corporations and governments have. The incubation period for the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus, is not 14 days. It's 14 days for some. But large numbers of people now, it's only 3 or 4 in China, but now it's been picked up elsewhere, are showing no symptoms until day 19 to day 27. And there have been several cases of this now. It also explains why so many of the quarantines are failing. I mean, the quarantines are failing dismally. And one of the reasons why is because not only is the incubation period substantially longer, but it could well be tied into the fact that there are at least 2 strains of the coronavirus, one more virulent than the other. But it also could be that one of those strains, and they're still madly scrambling to understand this, has a longer incubation period. It could also be that there are other factors at play that we're not aware of yet that determines when a person becomes symptomatic. Some people's immune systems are stronger than others. Some people might have an abundance of the right kind of lymphocyte or phagocyte or T cell that holds the virus's proliferation at bay until a later date. Either way, I mean, the Spanish flu was so deadly because it did that on steroids, so that it forced your immune system to ramp itself up on and on again. The innate, you've got 2 systems in your body that deal with the immune system. An innate system that just blankets your system in T cells and heat and basically carpet bombs your system to get rid of viruses. And then we've got the adaptive system that we developed later. It's much less primitive, and it actually understands, it learns the new invaders and then develops very specific T cells to attack, killer cells to attack those. When the system becomes sufficiently overwhelmed, the innate system will kick in as a last-ditch effort to blast the offending virus out of its system, and which in the case of the Spanish flu killed everyone, because the younger and stronger you were, the stronger your immune response was, and you died as a result. So being stronger wasn't necessarily an advantage in that particular flu. Now, coronavirus is nothing like this in that respect. It's nowhere near as strong. But it clearly is responding to mutation, possibly. Well, it has mutated at least once. And it may well be responding also to our own physiologies. And if that's the case, we're going to get, and we already are, proving that we're getting variation in the incubation period. That means its transmissibility is not safe. It's not in the safe window that governments are saying. They are not telling the truth. They should be saying a substantial portion of people will be able to carry the virus for 2 to 10 days longer than everyone else, or even longer than that. One guy in Hubei was diagnosed with the disease, was asymptomatic with the disease for 29 days. Okay, there's just too much variation. 19, 23, 24, 17, 29, 27, a couple of 27s now. There's too much variation. It's not 14. So whatever you hear in the papers and on articles, they're incorrect. You can check it up yourself on pharmaceutical-technology.com. They have an article on the coronavirus incubation period, or you can go to another really reputable site that I've gone to a few times, worldometers.info. slash coronavirus slash coronavirus dash incubation dash period slash forward slash is all. So it's well worth having a look. I'll post the links in the content below and check on that, because we're not being told the truth as per usual. There's a certain amount of grooming going on, a reticence to panic because they're counting the billions that will be lost already. And that's actually, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm actually more scared of the economic impacts than I am of the virus itself at the moment. The reality is, though, that SARS showed no sign of mutating in the whole year that it was floating around the place causing problems. The H1N1 has not mutated substantially or dangerously in the years since it's been out, nor did MERS. So the difference here is that the coronavirus has mutated in 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months, this bad boy or girl or non-binary virus has mutated already. That is a remarkably short period of time for it to mutate. Now, it may mutate through a range of equally largely unlethal or non-lethal variants, but there is a stronger variant already, the S variant, and that's the later variant. Some people are misreporting it as the second variant as being the lesser one. No, it's less common, but it came out, it was reported later than the L variant. Now, just in case, don't get you with knickers in a knot if I flip the L and the S there, but the more dangerous variant was definitely reported later. That's what the documentation says. I'm inclined to go with it. No reason for them to be fibbing about what order they came out in. It could mutate again. In fact, it's almost very likely to mutate again. It might mutate to a less dangerous variant. It might mutate to something that has a longer incubation period but is less lethal. If only the damn things were smart, that's exactly what they do. They make themselves less and less dangerous and less symptomatic. So they spread through the population like a plague, but a plague that didn't do really much more than give you a slight head cold and a sniffle. No one would care. And for some people, that's exactly the case. They're getting no symptoms or very mild symptoms. For most people, though, they're getting a flu, and it's not pleasant. And if you get enough people getting a flu, the flu has been considered by the World Trade Organization and a number of other fiscal organizations as one of the factors that can affect, at the wrong time, quite drastically affect economic trends and push countries potentially into recession. You get 1 million people getting really bad flu, right where your economy's hovering on the edge and your stock market's not healthy and balance of trade is poor, so on and so on, then yeah, it can tip right over. So just in light of that, I think people need to take care about the information they're hearing and recognise the fact that the quarantines are failing because they did not take all the information into account, and locking yourself up for and locking yourself up for 14 days isn't going to be enough. For many people, it will be drastically short. You'll be going out and reinfecting a whole host of other people. So, and you're probably going to be still sick by then anyway, but for those who recover very quickly, and there's plenty of them that do, it's going to be highly problematic. So please take into account the new time schedules. If you do get sick, stay home for 3 to 4 weeks. If you can't do that, isolate yourself as best as you can. I recognise the economic imperatives that are quite terrifying for most of us. I'm a low-income worker myself, so I understand implicitly how it can affect you. And in Australia, as we've discovered, there is the Australian law in Australia, under unusual circumstances, under the Fair Work Act, they don't have to pay you. So if you go home and you happen to be, like most people, somewhat, especially after Christmas, somewhat short of annual leave, or you're contract or casual and you don't get annual leave, 2.6 million here in Australia, just casual and short-term contract, then it doesn't matter. Even now, if you're permanent, full-time, part-time, they don't have to pay you. They don't have to pay you if work shuts down. So if you work in a train station, an airport, you work in places, public services, even schools, when you go off, they don't have to pay you. So you better hope you've got some annual leave there. You better hope you haven't used up much sick leave, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it, because if those services are shut down, not for the 14 days, but probably considerably longer than that, they've been shut down in Hubei for weeks now, months. People are not going to have any ability to pay their rent, pay their bills. So that's the other concern that I have, is that not only are we not being given all the information pertinent to the transmissibility and incubation period of this disease, and the fact that there is a more dangerous version of it out that does kill people and has a much, much higher mortality rate, somewhere between 11 and 15%. But it's certainly much rarer than the other one, but that's not the point. Even the the less virulent version has killed people at about 2%, 1.5 to 3.5%. It varies from population to population. But we're also not going to have, we're going to have possibly long periods of time that of legally enforceable no income. So if they're not going to pay our incomes, how do we pay our rents, electricity, food, internet? How do we maintain our connection to the world and our safety within it? Impossible. So to me, so far, Scott Morrison's government here in Australia has done a dismal job, and they're matched by lots of governments elsewhere. They're deeply reluctant to stick their hand in their pockets and tell people that it'll be okay. What they should be doing is saying, don't worry. If you get sick, or if you're pushed out of work by a pandemic and by the consequences of it and by economic strife that's the result of it, even if business is shut down, we will look after you. You'll be on Centrelink in no time. We'll give you at least some kind of survival wage or survival fare. We'll cover your rents. We'll make sure you're not losing your homes. You're not getting evicted. You're not having your power switched off. You can stay on the internet. You can stay connected. You can stay safe. Without the internet, you're not safe. You can't access public safety networks and so on and so on. So these are kind of staples you have to have. You have to be able to eat and drink. Things have to stay on no matter what. They can't switch your water off, and you need to be able to feed yourself. These are the things that government should be focusing on. Okay, the reassurances they're giving are blandishments. They're nothing but token pats on the back, while most of us that are remotely logical and remotely aware are going, hey, there's some real issues here. Why aren't you addressing them? Because they all mean dollar, dollar, dollar ching, and government doesn't want to do it. Government has better things to do. They're promoting a stimulus package now that's largely to do with business. Yet again, not funding the people who are at the coalface, the workers. No. Give money to businesses. Give money to health services, yes, but that's the beginning. The tail end of that is that you need to fund people in times of crisis, because otherwise people do bad things. People get desperate through no fault of their own. So let's avoid those horrible, tragic circumstances that can often result in these crises. Let's make sure that people are given all the information, not some of it, all of it. And I don't want to be groomed. I'm not here to be petted and consoled. Okay? I'm here to be told the truth and make my own decisions, the same as anyone else. I want to know the truth. I don't want to be petted. I don't want to be reassured into oblivion. Thank you very much. And that is what governments are doing. Don't believe them. Don't believe authorities. They are not telling you the whole truth. And they will not tell you the whole truth, unfortunately. Nor will they look after you when the worst comes. Okay? So we have to force them to. That's democracy. We have to pressure them into telling us the truth. We have to access that information for ourselves as best as we can. And we have to pressure them into making sure that they look after people who are going to be out of work for possibly weeks and weeks and weeks with no income. Yours truly. Okay? Work in a gym, do security. They all shut. Then what happens? No money for me. But my landlord still wants money. The power has to stay on. Internet has to stay on. Food needs to be in the fridge. Who's covering that? Millions of us in the same boat. And I don't hear many governments talking about that. Cheers. And thanks for that on Doesn't Matter.